Okay, so the two critical steps of a good fish and chips is that you need to have room temperature seafood, and it needs to be as bone dry as you can make it. So how I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna take some kitchen towels and I'm just going to let them absorb any extra moisture that I might have going on. And then I'm just gonna cover them and let them come up to room temperature. You know, you don't want the fish to sit out too long. It should be about 20 minutes. The reason for this is that if you have any liquid, it's gonna create sort of a steam pocket under your crust. Because you're cooking it so fast, you want the crust to adhere to the fish. Likewise, you don't want cold fish because it's gonna take longer for the inside to cook, and you want it to cook very evenly in the oil. So the fish we're using for today is blackfish. And blackfish is very similar in texture to a bass, very nice and hearty, so it's good for frying. It has kind of a pinkish hue and a sweet flavor because it eats green crabs. Gives it an awesome flavor. For our fish and chips, our sauce today is going to be a malt vinegar aioli. So I've got a cup of Hellmann's mayonnaise. To that, I'm gonna add a tablespoon of, I'm using a German style mustard, but feel free to use Dijon or grain mustard. So I'm gonna add a tablespoon. This is a 1/4 cup of malt vinegar. I'm not gonna add it all because I'm gonna see how loose it makes my sauce. So I'm gonna add about half, stir it up. And that thinned it out, but I think we could go a little bit heavier on the liquid. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more. And that feels like a good sauce consistency to me. So I probably used about 3/4 of a 1/4 cup. All right, to this, I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of chopped tarragon. It's got sort of like an anise flavor to it, and it's gonna pair nicely with the vinegar. Get all the goodness. And then I've got about a teaspoon of chopped garlic, and that's just gonna round out the flavor, give it a nice punch. Before I mix that, I'm gonna give it a pinch of salt and some black pepper. And like everything, just give it a taste for seasoning. That's gonna be good. Now that our sauce is made, put it in the fridge until we're ready to use it. All right, well, we've talked about the fish, let's talk about the chips. First thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna get a bucket of ice water. It's good to put your cut potatoes into ice water because it helps take out the excess potato starch out of the potato and allows them to get a little crispier. I'm not really worried too much about the eyes because I'm gonna square it off. And then we're just gonna square our potatoes off, cut them as thick as you want. I'm gonna go for about a medium cut fry. Just about like that. If you have any eye on them, trim it off. All right, so our oil's been coming up to temp. We're blanching the potatoes right now, and what blanching is, you're basically going to cook your potato through so that it's almost like a little more translucent than opaque. And then we're gonna put them on the side, and then when we want to take them in the final step, it's a quicker drop in and you get that nice crispy texture on your French fry. So we're gonna take them out of the water, and we don't wanna put them in hot oil at this point because we don't want water and oil to hit. So make sure and put your fries on a towel and really make sure to pat them dry. We don't want any residual moisture. Once our fries are nice and dry, that's what we're looking for. Over here, I have a pot of oil with a candy thermometer. If you don't have a candy thermometer, I suggest getting one if you want to make French fries at home, because it is important to know the temperature of your oil. I have about 3 quarts, 2.5 to 3 quarts here of canola oil. You can use any high heat oil. I wouldn't use like grapeseed or safflower just because they're more expensive. You want to go more like your peanut oil, your canola, your vegetable oil. This isn't a step where quality matters. I'm trying to blanch around 280, but I do have a considerable amount of French fries here. So I want to get it to about 300. When you're reading oil, you don't want to read the bottom of the pan because that's where your heat source is, and you're going to get an inaccurate reading. So as you can see on here, we're at 300. So I'm going to remove my thermometer, place that over there, and then I'm going to collect my French fries. I guess they're potato sticks at this point. We're going to blanch them until they're cooked through and they're very noodle-like. They're pliable and they're a little more translucent than they are now. Be very careful. You're just gonna lay them in. You don't want to splash oil on your tiny dogs or your tiny children. So now our oil temperature is gonna drop. So I'm just gonna let this sit on top of the fries so that I can kind of gauge my heat source and make sure that we're staying around 280. Here I have a resting rack, and that's for our French fries to sit on until we go back in for the final fry. So you can see that they're still very opaque and they're still hard. So I'm just gonna let them sit in there and soak it up. All right, so at this point, we've got a nice initial blanch on them. We're just gonna remove them all. They should be cooked through, but they don't have their like crispiness quite yet. And you can kind of see, and they're hot, so don't try this at home. But you can see how pliable they are. So now we're gonna make our batter. The first thing we should do when we're making our batter, because we don't want it to sit, get our oil heating up again. This time we're looking for 350. So give that a chance to get up there. First thing we're gonna do is grab our whisk. A nice balloon whisk is best. 2.5 cups of AP flour in our bowl. 2 cups of rice flour, and this is going to keep our batter nice and crispy and light. 4 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika, and then I'm also going to toss in about a tablespoon of salt. And then the last thing we need is a beer. I really recommend using a wheat beer or an IPA. There's a lot more going on in the beer, so it's gonna just add to the complexity of our final product. This is 2 beers from Threes Brewing. They're awesome. We need 2 12-ounce beers. My first one was 16 ounces, so I need to add just another cup. Got that nice color from the paprika. So this batter is looking a tiny bit thick to me. So luckily we have a little bit extra beer. If it's not kind of running more, then you are gonna wanna add some more beer. Add that to our batter. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so our oil is reading about 370. Our ideal temperature is 350, and I'd like it to be more 360 because we are gonna lose some of the temperature once we drop our fish in. So here we have our blackfish. It's nice room temperature. It's very dry, as you can see. And then here's our batter. The reason that I like a beer batter is that our final texture is gonna be more like a tempura. Feel free if you want to use a panko crust, but I like the silky, smooth texture of a beer batter. So we're gonna drop this in, make sure it's nice and fully submerged. You gotta get that last little piece. You don't want too much batter because it'll be clunky and a little bit overkill. So once it stops dripping, at this point, you can just kind of brush it on the side of the pot, and then you're just gonna slowly drop it in. You never wanna put anything into oil fast. We can fit about 2 pieces in this pan. So here we go, our second piece. Watching our oil, and see how it bubbles up right away, and we're gonna have that nice smooth texture. Hit this on the side of the pan. I'm just gonna move this out of the way. And a nice slow drop in. Make sure that you're not getting too much surface area on the fish above the oil line. You want it to be nice and submerged. All right, and then once we have that nice golden color, we're gonna pull it out. And then with another thermometer, this is just a basic kitchen thermometer, we just wanna make sure that the internal temperature of the fish is about 145. Went a little over. It's all right. Good coloring, nice golden brown. I do think that everyone should have a candy thermometer and a regular thermometer in their kitchen. It just makes for more accurate cooking. It takes the guesswork out. So many people avoid fish because they think it tastes fishy, and fish really doesn't need to be cooked all the way through. You know, you guys are buying such high quality fish. All you need to do is stay out of its way. And then this is the part where you should season your fish. When it's nice and hot, this is where it's gonna take to the seasoning. All right, so now that our oil is at 350, I'm gonna drop in our blanched fries, just like before. And then we're just looking for a similar color to our fish. And see how quickly they get color? That's what we want, that nice crisp outer fry. All right, so we're gonna remove them right onto our resting rack. And then just like anything when it's hot, seasoning right after. All right. We're gonna take our malt vinegar aioli. We're gonna take a nice chunky piece of fish, some of our French fries, lemon, some parsley. And that's our black fish and chips with a malt vinegar aioli.